Hi everyone, welcome back to another session of MLOps Basics. In the week 3 of the session 7, today we are going to cover the DVC, Data Version Control. For this, I'll try to make you understand by the analogy of you would have used Git. And generally, people use Git for collaboration and versioning of proper versioning of things. Similar to that, there are not many things in machine learning, or similar to that, what's there in machine learning is the data version control. This thing helps you track all the data that you use for experiments and the model you produce. And if someone wants to accurately reproduce experiments that you have or others have done, that's a very big challenge. And that's the place where data version control comes into place. And for data version control, there are many supporting libraries which helps you with support, which gives you the support for versioning of models and data. However, the prominent ones are DVC, DAGSUB, Hub, ModelStore, ModelDB. Mostly, I have used DVC, and the thing that I have used people do is DVC only. So in this particular session, we are going to cover the DVC. So in DVC, there are a couple of things that I would be explaining you in this session. First is like basics of DVC, initializing DVC, configuring remote storage, and saving model to remote storage, then versioning of models. And in this series, you might already know we are covering the MLOps blogs by Raviraja Ganta. Thanks to him for producing such good and such informative to the point blogs. So starting off with DVC, is kind of what I explained to you earlier. DVC is kind of a data versioning workflow and experiment management software, and it also builds upon Git. Um, it's similar to that thing like in this you can work similar to Git flow. You have small meta files, and the one good thing is like sometimes the models that we have becomes quite large. Data that we have becomes quite large. So a lot of times, if you would have then if you have tried to push all those bigger things to the GitHub, and for the people who do not have enterprise accounts, the GitHub might have said like you're using out of the limits. And in case if you haven't, like let me tell you, like I am not sure like we reached that limit after 1.5 GB or something on GitHub. So for versioning of models or bigger data sets, you can use remote storage servers. And DVC is one of the things which helps you store the different versions and data of model on the S3, Google Drive, etc. That do like in a very easy manner that I'll be showing you next. So basically, three main functions of DVC: version experiments, manage large data sets, and make projects reproducible. So for initializing DVC, how I think like this part you would have already known, considering you are already good with the initials basics of how Python and machine learning works. So we install DVC, then we do DVC init, similar to how we do git init. So when this thing is done, then we move on forward. So one of the things like what we discussed earlier is DVC helps you store the files that you have on S3, Google Drive, and all that. So in this, we can see how we can configure the remote storage. When you go to Google Drive, you make a particular folder for yourself. In that, in the path of that folder, there would be particular folder number. So for that particular, if you want to configure your remote location as that, you just add that G drive and that folder number. This is the idea of the folder that we have, right? And once you have run the above command, it will create a config in .dvc file similar to how GitHub does for how Git does for .git files. Similar to that, we have for DVC in the config. For configurations, we have two sessions earlier just for this. If you want to get much more idea about config and configurations, I recommend you to please go back and watch those sessions. So once this command is run, it will show you something like storage is remote and the URL is this one. So for example, like if you want to see how we save model to the remote storage, what we can do is run the train.py, and then when the train model is available in the model. So particularly when we are running train.py, from train.py we are training one particular model and then saving that particular model to as a checkpoint checkpoint model. If you are not able to understand what I want to say here, please go back and watch the different series. I think it was covered in the session 3 and I think session 3. And then ideally you should do DVC add, similar to like how do you do git add. And this is how the folder structure should look like. And then if you want to see, like this is just adding to the DVC. And then similar to how you do in Git, so in Git, what you do first, you do Git init, what we did earlier, then you have specified the configuration and locations, then you have added the model checkpoint, and then after that you have added the checkpoint and the train model. After that you just um, push whatever we have to the remote storage. And then it's similar to authentication, what we generally do. So final steps, these are similar to how you do for GitHub. So you have already done DVC init, DVC push. Now you do the same for Git add those files. And then so for what is going to happen here for the bigger files that we have, those files will be pushed to the remote storage that we had, and the normal files which you haven't put in DVC, ignore. Those will be pushed to GitHub. And for managing that version history, how everything was changed or committed, DVC on top of Git will keep track of that. So git add, git commit, git push. And then if you want to delete some model and then pull from remote storage using DVC, so we can do during using these simple commands. First is like we remove the checkpoint and then we pull the train model.dvc from the remote storage that we have. So it's like versioning the models where we edit the versions and then git push origin. So these are using tags to identify. And then finally, now we are trying to update the model so that we have seen how we push the model, then remove and pull the model. Now we are updating the model. So what we did is we update the model with 3 epochs, and there would be some new checkpoints of model that are there. Then now we will do DVC add the new models that we have and then push those models. Now we will create the text for that commit, push origin. And then finally switching the version is similar to how you do in GitHub, and it's way easy. So what DVC did for us is it acted kind of a version control, the data version control. It acted as a version control for our machine learning projects, because one of the things is I'll tell you a real world example. Once I was working on projects, I was very new on working on large scale projects. So I did prepare one versions and I was not that good with versioning. Then I prepared the second version. And then things were all good when I started, the versions started increasing like version 2, version 3, version 4. I was too confused at that time which model to use for which version. There was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So many things going on here and there's so many files that it was too hard to keep track of that. Then I explored through and I realized there's something called as DVC. I could have used GitHub, but could not use GitHub because a lot of times the models that I was producing were way too large. The data set was way too large to be pushed into GitHub. So either I was doing too much git ignore, so most of my models were not tracked. And the solution to that problem, I wasn't aware of the fact, but it's like I'm helping you out whenever you work on your machine learning projects, which require collaboration or working for a longer duration with different versions. Please try to use data version control for version controlling. So that's it for today's session, and let's see you in the next session. Thank you very much.